Hey everyone, it's Rustabout Collector. Welcome back to the channel, or maybe if this is your first time visiting the channel, I guess welcome. Today we are taking a look at the G.I. Joe 6-inch classified series Spirit Ironknife figure. I have been really looking forward to this one. This is one of the figures that I always wanted as a kid with like the vintage line. Never got it, and so now that I've been collecting classified, I'm super excited to have this one added to the collection, and this is quite the figure. Now, unfortunately, the box that this came in from UPS was kind of crushed. I'm actually surprised that the worst thing that happened to this box was just some buckling here. I'm not an inbox collector, but it would be nice to be able to show a more pristine variant of the box, here on the channel. Either way, though, you can still get a good idea of what this looks like on card. The figure and all the accessories are displayed very nicely in the classic classified series box. I'm kind of wondering if this will go away soon with their plastic-free initiative and everything. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But yeah, there is some really cool artwork here that kind of transitions around to the side, showcasing Spirit Ironknife in a couple different positions, with him also up here at the top. And around to the back here, we actually have some new artwork. This is at least the first time that I've seen artwork with all of these new characters. Here is an example of the previous artwork. Both of these are fantastic. I love these types of, I don't even know, Avengers style artwork. You have all the different characters, good and bad, mixed together. Definitely reminds me of a superhero poster. But yeah, I'm really hoping that we maybe see like actual printed posters of these. Like I would absolutely get, a 3-foot tall poster of these because it really showcases all the characters in a really iconic way. Once again, you have all of these things here. I know you can go online and look at what his card would be. The old G.I. Joe figures had the little card, like the data cards that gave you their real names and their code names and info about them. Well, that's turned into this now, and I really am not a huge fan of it. I wish we still had the cutouts on the back that you could take and, actually cut out the file card for each individual Joe. But we don't, unfortunately. It was a really cool system back in the day, and now it's kind of, it's all digital. Whoop-de-doo. But we're really here just for the figure, so let's take this out of the packaging, take a look at all these awesome accessories, the awesome figure, and then we'll do some cool comparisons. So here he is, all out of the packaging, and this figure is very, very impressive. It is fully loaded with a ton of accessories, including the bald eagle, which I believe is named Freedom. It doesn't say anywhere on the packaging, but that's just what I was reading. And you even get swappable wings for Freedom so that you can have him just kind of at ease with his wings at his side, or more flared out like you see there. But overall, this figure is just jam-packed with detail, and it's really, really awesome to see it in this classic style from his 1984 original release uniform with the pants and the blue shirt and everything. I really do love how G.I. Joe has been leaning more into those classic-inspired uniforms, just because for a while they were kind of going high-tech with it, and then they've kind of reeled it back into more of a realistic style. I really appreciate that. That's definitely the Joes that I remember growing up with, and that's kind of what I want on the shelf, so this is really cool. I was actually a little bit hesitant to do a 360 of this guy just because that eagle does make him a little bit back heavy. It can really make this figure easily knocked over. It probably is a little bit easier if it's attached to his arm though, so I will try that out later in the video, but yeah, the detail here on this figure with the sculpting and everything is awesome. Now, I can't really tell you what is reuse and what is new. I'm definitely not the person to go over all of that with you on these figures. Starting things off with accessories, as we do here on the channel, we have a combat knife, kind of a tactical combat knife, cast in all black. It looks really cool. The sculpting here is very nice. That can be sheathed right here on his hip. He also has this other knife, which I believe is meant to be more of a ceremonial piece. I could be wrong. I think they did go into it on the G.I. Joe live stream. I just can't really remember everything they talked about with that. But this has a really nice silver paint app here. It also has what looks like a molded bird skull on the end of the hilt here. It's really nicely done. I absolutely love the detail here. And this can be placed in the sheath here on his chest harness. Then we follow that up with a 1911, or at least it's modeled to look like a Colt 1911. This is a very classic sidearm for a lot of different eras, but yeah, it works really well for him here. Impressively, it has an etched bald eagle running up the side of the slide and actually the base here. You can see the wing running up to the end of the barrel. You can kind of make out the little head there of the eagle. That is just some really, really impressive detail work there. It goes on both sides. And I think with a little bit of silver dry brushing or something, you could really bring that out. What I also love is that they've drilled out the barrel here, which does mean it's compatible with certain suppressors from like snake eyes and stuff. So that's cool as well. And this can be holstered right here on his side. It has a very good fit here. It's definitely not going to fall out. That's one of the good things with these classified series figures. They all have really good tolerances so that accessories are easily removed, but they also aren't going to fall off once you have them affixed to the figure. And then finally we have his rifle. I'm not really sure what this is meant to be based off of. It kind of resembles something like an M14. However, it is bolt action, so it's kind of just some sort of trail sniper rifle. Has a really big scope on it. Another cool feature here is that the magazine is completely removable and it fits in well so that it's also not going to fall out, because something that small I would be worried about losing. But yeah, it looks really cool here. It does have a flash guard on the end. It's also drilled out, so you could also then add an additional suppressor to the end of that even, which kind of would look cool with this design, especially if this is a more, you know, a forward operating character. This is definitely... I think that notion of a stealth-based weapon worked really well with Spirit because he is part of the reconnaissance team for the Joes, or at least he was in some of the older comics. So yeah, I think this is a really cool weapon choice. I believe it is a callback to some of the classic figures, but I know various releases had different weapons, so you know, kind of got to go off of a wide variety of different classic Joe weapons here, but it definitely has some of that classic feeling to it. And he can hold that really well with his hands, even though this is an in and out joint, which has always bugged me with the G.I. Joes. This hand needs to be up and down, but they still are doing it in and out for whatever reason, probably just because it's cheaper than remolding the hinge. But yeah, that hand has always bugged me, but even so, they can hold their weapons pretty well. Now he also does come with a backpack. This is mostly just cast in this kind of orangish brown color, and then it has maybe a dual molded piece here with these black elements. I don't know what those are meant to represent, but you know, it's storage. He's got some pouches, he's got some boxes. This can peg onto his back, though I'm not totally confident with how well it holds. I've seen it kind of falling off of this figure fairly easily just in handling it and posing it. This will fall off, but it holds well enough, especially if he's just sitting on a shelf. You can also store his rifle on the back here just like so, in case you want to have him wielding a sidearm or something. And the backpack has two peg holes here, just like his wrist, so that Freedom can sit atop it like you saw at the start of this video. So speaking of Freedom the Eagle, we'll just take a look at all of him right here. All of his articulation, paint dap, sculpt work, and of course his interchangeable wings. But yeah, I think this is a pretty cool version of the character. The sculpt work is really nice. You can see all the individual feathers there. The paint apps are simple but effective, you know, just white there, yellow for the beak, some eye applications there, and then the hands are just cast, or the claws are cast in yellow, the feet, the hands, the claws, those things are cast in yellow. Words are difficult sometimes. But yeah, I would have liked some paint apps here for the talons. That would have just been really nice, but I guess you can always go in and just lightly touch those up if you feel so inclined. Overall, this is a really cool character and a really cool figure. The name Freedom might be a little bit on the nose, but you know, it was the 80s. People were trying to be patriotic. I guess I can't fault them for being a product of their time. But yeah, bald eagle named Freedom, you can't really get more cliche than that. However, something about the sculpt work here, I think mostly in the head, just does not say bald eagle to me. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's because of the neck joint there, but it really just looks kind of like a seagull head slapped on an eagle's body. I might be crazy there. Maybe I should look at some better reference pictures of a bald eagle, but I just feel like they missed some of the shape of a bald eagle's head. It's a very interesting and iconic face for a bird, and so yeah, this just kind of feels off for some reason. I can't put my finger on why, but it just doesn't look very eagle-like. Also, this guy has a really bad eye problem on this side. It's like shifted down from where it should be. This side is just fine, it's placed correctly, but this one is kind of droopy. But as for articulation, as you probably saw, his wings are on ball joints, so you can kind of get some interesting posing there. You can have them flared out, you could have him, you know, flying or something. You could bring his head back, and there you go. There's a flying bald eagle. His head is also on a ball joint, so you can get some side-to-side tilting. You can tilt it all the way to there and all the way back to there. His legs are simple swivels, so you can swivel them forward and back, and that's really it. And then his ankles, I guess, are also swivels, so you can swivel the feet all the way around. I do like that they gave us two options for the wings. That's just a cool little feature to have so that he can be perched or he could be in mid-flight. As you can see, the wings just kind of pop in there with no problem, and then straighten up his legs a little bit, and there you go. There is a more perched freedom, and you can maybe turn his head to the side even a little bit, have him giving that very stoic bald eagle look. But again, something just screams seagull looking at your french fries on the beach and not America's iconic bird. You know, I can't put my finger on it, but something just feels off about this head sculpt. Despite that though, I really do love this feature where we can just peg freedom right onto Spirit's arm, like that, and then if you just position that a little bit better, you can have some really cool posing options with just the bird perched on his arm. He actually has like a falconer's glove. I think that's what it's called at least, but the glove that people that, you know, deal with birds of prey wear on their arm because it protects them from the talons. That's just a good detail to have, and that way you can have freedom perched on his forearm. Additionally, you can take him off of there, put the backpack back on, and this is kind of where that balance issue comes in, unfortunately. But you can peg freedom onto the backpack as well, and you can have him just like that. But the added weight of the bird really does make him need to lean a little bit forward in order not to just fall backwards. And also, for some reason, it seems like the weight of freedom also wants to knock the backpack off of his back. Unfortunately, it just doesn't have a very good grip when it just pegs into the back like that, so it's kind of precarious. I'm sure that there are ways that you could make it work, maybe adding some sticky tack there or something like that. But overall, this is a really cool feature, and I love the different posing options that you have with these two. It's also worth mentioning that you can just have him sitting on the ground. He doesn't necessarily need to be perched on Spirit in any way. So thankfully, there's a couple different options if you don't want to just have him perched on Spirit in some way, either on the arm or on the backpack. So now really quick, let's break down the articulation on this figure. I feel like it's probably going to be pretty much standard with what we've gotten pretty much on every single other G.I. Joe figure, but let's dig into it here on this figure. We have a ball joint at the head as well as one recessed in the torso here, so you do get a little bit of flex on the neck forward and back. Not much side to side because of the collars of his shirt, but still good backwards, good forwards, a little bit of side-to-side tilt on that upper joint, and you can pivot all the way around. Moving on down to the shoulders, there is a butterfly giving you that forward and back crunch. Hinge and swivel all the way around. You can flex that up to about 90 degrees. Bicep swivel, elbows that crunch in just past 90, and then a hinge and a swivel at both hands. For some reason, the left hand is up and down, and the right hand is in and out. That just feels opposite of what it should be, unless maybe Spirit is a traditionally left-handed character, which would be cool and certainly unique, but I don't think that there's any kind of data on that, so I don't know. It just feels weird because typically the right hand is the weapon-holding hand. Moving down to the torso and waist, you have a ball joint at the waist that gives you the side-to-side forward-back crunch. Then you also have the ab crunch that can fold to there and flex back to there. The hips are the traditional drop-down peg ball joint system. I think actually from the knee to the waist, this is actually just a straight reuse of Duke. Since I actually have him on hand, yeah, that is just a straight Duke reuse there. That's the one thing that I actually can pinpoint. Typically, like I said, I don't always know, but sometimes something like that is pretty recognizable. But his legs can flex forward to there, back to there. That hip can drop down if you need it for a little extra mobility there. There is a thigh swivel as well as double jointed knees that can bend all the way back to there. There is a swivel at the top of his boot, and then a hinge and rocker that lets you point to there, go forward to there, and of course rock side to side for some extra dynamic posing. So like I said before, there really isn't anything brand new or groundbreaking with this figure. A lot of the articulation is just reused from various parts of other figures, but it works. It's a really solid base for figures. These classified figures have just everything that you could ask for when it comes to articulation, sculpting, you know, face printing for the characters that have faces. It's really cool. I really dig this line. I wish it was stocked more. Right now, all 4 of my local Walmarts are just overflowing with the Snake Eyes movie line. They have not clearanced them out, and they're just stuck there. No one's going to buy them, and I would love it if figures like this were hitting the shelves, because this is an example of pinnacle G.I. Joe action figure collecting right here. Overall, this figure is just really cool. Beyond just the nostalgia for me, you know, loving this character from the comics and really wanting the classic figure back in the day, it's got some really cool coloration going on. I love the contrast between the blue and the red of his undershirt, his bandana here, and then also like the markings of his rank and possibly his unit. I'm assuming that looks like a unit patch of some kind. This would be his rank of sergeant, which is curious. I don't know if we've really known the rank of many G.I. Joes. But that also contrasts nicely with the tan of his pants here. It's a very neutral color, but then they use the dark brown plastic here to contrast that with all the straps, pouches, and things of that nature. And it works really well. It's just a well put together character in terms of color design, character design, and all of that. It really does shine a light on how cool the classified line is. And I also appreciate that they added in those little extra paint app strikes, like his belt buckle here and this buckle here, along with the grenades, and I think that's it. They left these unpainted, which is okay to me because they're just on the back, kind of tucked away. Though it is nice that this little added detail are actually extra magazines for his sidearm. Now it's probably pretty clear because these figures do have so much reuse that they all will stand at about the same height, but it's worth showing anyways that yes, they all are about the same height. You know, in that 6-inch range, if they're off by a few millimeters, it's no big deal. In fact, I would prefer it if some characters were taller and others not so much. But, you know, they look good on a shelf. You know, this is nice. You know, all the figures were, you know, figures first. They were old vintage 3 3/4 inch figures, and they never really talked about height all that much. So unless you wanted to get really nitpicky with their file cards, maybe you'd find some information there about different heights and things like that. For the most part, this works just fine. I'm not going to complain if the figures are all the same height. It doesn't really bother me at all. It's really impressive when a 6-inch action figure can get this level of articulation and do it well without the joints looking too out of place or inhuman, and still really just having a lot of detail as well. This is why I love the classified line. I think at this point, any review that I have of a classified figure will just be me like screaming the praises of this line from the rooftops. I try not to do that on the channel. I do try to be objective about figures, but it's such a cool line. I don't think I've gotten a single G.I. Joe figure that I did not like at least a little bit. You know, there was probably some that were maybe not so much my favorites. I think definitely Wave 1 was probably the weakest. I wasn't a fan of the super high-tech armor pieces and weird blaster weapons, things like that. But even so, Wave 1 was still cool. It was still very definitely G.I. Joe, and I still have those figures in my collection. The only minor thing that I would say with this figure is that the joints on these hands need switched so that the up and down is on the right arm, and it would have been cool with this figure in particular if the eagle came with an alternate head that you could swap on and maybe had his beak open like he was screeching or about to attack someone. That would be a really cool little detail to have there, but apart from that, this is a really awesome figure. It definitely feels worth the price, even as the prices have increased a little bit over time with just everything going on. These still feel like I'm getting a lot of bang for my buck. With all the accessories, the face printing, and, you know, cool creatures like Freedom here, it's a great line to get into. But anyways, that is where I'm wrapping up this video, so if you liked it, please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, that sort of stuff. If you want to follow me over on social media, the link tree down in the description will take you over to my Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. There's also a link to Entertainment Earth. You can still pre-order this figure through them. It might take a bit to ship because I think they're probably waiting for the second shipment now, but either way, it's a good way if you want to secure this figure and guarantee that you'll get it, at least eventually. It might take a bit, but still, you'll get it. There's also a P.O. Box address in case you want to send anything into the channel, but apart from that, thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening, noon, or night, depending on when you're watching this video, and as always, I'll be sure to catch you all in the next video.